dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yup, let's get original crew. It's your boy DJ New Kid, your girl.
Sierra Nicole.
Back on the channel, man. We got more Mr. Ballen. We got paranormal events with proof.
What?
Proof. Proof is in the pudding. Do you believe in paranormal things? I was about to say, you better not lie. You finna say, I don't know. Like,
well,
I'm about to say, yo, I better not sit up here and lie.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's just we've had.
I guess it's just, yeah.
You think I believe in it?
No.
Why you say that? From the conversation we've had?
Oh no. I'm not one of those type that just believe everything. I'm not that type. I'm
one of those. I don't know what to believe. Shit, everybody be lying. Some people be telling the truth. Pastors be up there just collecting money. They
well,
don't
the only
know
reason
what they're talking about.
Listen. The only reason I believe, never mind.
I ain't going on that.
I ain't going on that. But let's go. Yeah,
I'm just saying, because I only got to take a jab.
Oh, you talking about that?
I'm just taking a jab.
Yeah.
But paranormal proof, I don't know. I think some reason why some people are afraid to truly believe it if paranormal activity is real because they're afraid of the unknown. And then the unknown will be like they'll be able to see the unknown and they'll be like they're in front of them. They'll be like, bro, I cannot believe this.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why people. But you never know. Yeah. So with that being said, make sure you check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go if you want to first part. All you gotta do is check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's video,
liking it with a thumbs up.
That's facts. But let's go. Let's check this one out. Let's see what it's about, man. We got Ballen on the channel yet again.
In 1967, a man was digging for gold in a forest in Canada when behind him he heard this sudden commotion. It sounded like geese getting really startled and flying off in different directions. And so he put down his pickaxe, he stood up, he turned around, and what he claimed happened next is referred to as the Falcon Lake incident, and it's considered to be one of the most credible paranormal stories of all time. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So if that's of interest to you, please ask the like button if you can borrow their favorite DVD, but instead of watching it, use it as a frisbee with your dog, and then return it. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
Why you have to fart, bro? What?
He had some gas.
Bro, hey, y'all who got a dog, y'all know how them dog farts could be, bro. That shit deadly.
Right.
And he right,
baby.
And he right up underneath me.
Let
That's strong,
right.
bro. Just right in the nostrils.
Just before 11 p.m. at night on May 20th, 1967, a 50-year-old man named Stefan McCulloch staggered into the Misericordia Hospital in Winnipeg, Canada. Stefan was so physically weak that his oldest son, Mark, was there with him, physically holding him up, carrying him into the hospital. When the nurses at the front desk saw the pair walk in, they immediately got up and walked around their desk over to these two guys and said, "Hey, what's going on? What's wrong with him?" And so Stefan at this point is so uncomfortable he can barely talk, but he takes a deep breath and then he tells the nurses that earlier that day he had been burned on his chest and stomach, and now he had this blinding headache and he was so nauseous and he could barely walk. The nurses knew clearly this is an emergency, and so they quickly ushered the pair down the hall to an exam room, and then a couple of minutes later, doctors came into the room and they asked Stefan to show them his burns. Stefan, who was already lying on his back on the exam table, slowly reaches down and grabs the bottom of his shirt and he lifts it up, and the doctors are stunned at what they see on his stomach. There was a very strange burn pattern that none of them had seen before. And so the doctors, they move in to get a better look at his injury. And as they're staring at it, they ask Stefan to explain how he got this burn. Now, what the doctors didn't realize is that Stefan was very conflicted. He knew if he told the truth about how he got this burn, then he would open himself and his family up to ridicule and skepticism. But as he's laying there and the doctors are waiting for his answer, he finally decides that the right thing to do here is just tell the truth. And so he takes a deep breath and then tells the doctors what happened to him. And by the time he was finished telling this story of what happened to his stomach, the doctors had stopped looking at his injury and instead were just standing in the middle of the room staring at Stefan with eyes wide and their mouths open. They were all literally speechless. Within 24 hours, Stefan's story had made news all over the world, and his story had attracted the attention of numerous US and Canadian secretive government agencies who were keen to interview Stefan one-on-one to really find out what he knew. In short, what Stefan claimed happened to him, dubbed the Falcon Lake incident, was a very big deal. However, the farther this story went and the more people that heard it, the more people started to question the validity of this story. It just seemed too unbelievable that maybe Stefan is just lying or this is a hoax. And so before I tell you Stefan's actual account of what happened at Falcon Lake, I'm going to give you a little context about who Stefan was prior to the incident. Because ultimately, Stefan's credibility in your eyes will determine if you really believe what happened to him. Stefan was born in the early 20th century in Poland, and when World War II broke out, he was captured by the Nazis and put into one of their concentration camps. It was called the Gross Rosen camp, and it was located in Poland. During his time at that camp, Stefan would bear witness to the Nazis perpetrating some of the worst atrocities ever committed against humanity. In total, approximately 125,000 people were held prisoner at the Gross Rosen camp, including Stefan. And of those 125,000, 40,000 of them would be killed primarily on site at the camp or on a Nazi-led death march. After the camp was finally liberated in early 1945, Stefan worked as a translator for the US Army, helping them continue to liberate other concentration camps across Europe. But by 1946, Stefan was ready to leave Europe and start a new life somewhere else and put World War II behind him. And so he and his wife, who also was held in a concentration camp during World War II, fled Poland with their 3 young kids and resettled in Winnipeg, Canada. And for the next 20 years, the McCullochs lived a very peaceful life. Stefan would find work as a mechanic at a cement factory, and his wife and his kids would make many friends and fall in love with the Winnipeg community. However, the McCullochs' life would take a sudden turn for the worst on May 20th, 1967. That was the day of the Falcon Lake incident. Stefan was a very passionate amateur prospector. A prospector is someone who searches the earth for mineral deposits, usually gold or silver. Stefan would spend much of his off time traveling all over Canada to different wilderness areas to basically hike around the forests and up over the mountains, stopping to hack into the earth with his pickaxe in hope of discovering treasures underneath the surface. Now, Stefan almost never found any treasures on any of his prospecting journeys, but he wasn't really in prospecting for the riches. Stefan just loved being outdoors and being in nature. It was very calming and peaceful for him, and considering how traumatic his earlier life had been, being in the concentration camp during World War II, finding moments of peace in his life was very important to him. And so, in May of 1967, Stefan decided to go out on another one of his prospecting trips, this time to an area called Falcon Lake. Falcon Lake is a fairly large lake located about 100 miles to the east of Winnipeg, and surrounding this lake was a big forest that Stefan had heard contained silver deposits tucked away in the hillsides. And so on Friday, May 19th, Stefan was ready to go on this trip, and so he packed up all of his prospecting equipment, he said goodbye to his wife and his kids, and then he left the house and made his way to the bus stop where he hopped on a Greyhound bus.
You think Canada might be a little haunted? You know what I'm saying? Like, some crazy stuff going on up there in Canada, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
some of the stories.
Yeah, and I'm just like, to be real, like, look at where people living in Canada. You really never hear people like, Canada's a big landmass, but it seems as though people don't live throughout, like, not like the U.S. The U.S. is, people live all over the U.S. Like, I'm talking about, except for the Grand Canyon, I'm talking about most of every state got people living there. You don't really see people in that middle part of Canada. You don't hear people talk, oh, I'm from this part. You be like, it's always, you know what I'm saying, Vancouver side or Toronto side, the east or the far west of Canada. You don't never hear like, I'm from the mid part of Canada. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, like, I'm not familiar with Canada.
But as far as stuff going on, I don't
It's
know.
some crazy shit going on up there.
It's crazy stuff going on everywhere. Like stories like that.
Yeah.
I'm saying stories like that.
Not in, man.
Dude.
Only crazy you hear about it in America, it happens up there on that East Coast border. You know what I'm saying? All that history up there, bro. But you don't really, like, down south, you ain't hearing all the crazy. We don't hear nothing about down south. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I guess. I'm thinking.
2 hours later, he got off the bus at the stop closest to Falcon Lake, and from there, he made his way to this cheap motel that was right on the side of the highway. He got a room, he got a quick bite to eat in their cafe, and then returned to his room and went to bed. The next morning, May 20th, 1967, so the day of the Falcon Lake incident, Stefan woke up early, right around 5 a.m. And by 5:30 a.m., he had all of his equipment either in his backpack or on his belt, and he was making his way out of the motel's front doors. Right outside of this motel was the highway that ran left to right, and on the other side of that highway was this huge forest that Falcon Lake.
Hear that?
Yeah, I was like, what was that noise?
I don't know.
It was like a popping sound.
What's that here?
Yeah.
You playing games, bro.
You didn't. Babe, you heard that. I'm not
Out of the motel's front doors. Right outside of this motel was the highway that ran left to right, and on the other side of that highway was this huge forest that Falcon Lake was deep inside of. And so after Stefan left the motel, he crossed over that highway and began walking into the woods. And for the next several hours, Stefan just kind of meandered his way through the woods. He wasn't on a trail. He was just using his compass to make sure he was generally walking in the direction of Falcon Lake. At around 9 a.m., so he's been hiking now for several hours, he looked up ahead and he saw there was a clearing on the side of this hill. And so Stefan walked into this clearing, and two things became immediately apparent. One, he was right near Falcon Lake. From his perspective on this clearing, he could look down just a couple of 100 feet, and there was the lake. And two, the reason this clearing existed and why no trees were growing on it at all is because under his feet was just a huge rock face, like a quartz vein that was running across this hillside. And so this was like the perfect place for Stefan to begin prospecting. And so he set his things down, he got out his pickaxe, he got his welding gloves on, he put on his welding goggles as well. They protected his eyes from any rocks that were flying as he was hacking into the ground. And then he got to work. For the next couple of hours, Stefan very diligently hacked away at this big rock, but he didn't find any silver or anything else of note. And so around 11 a.m., Stefan was hungry and tired, and so he put his pickaxe down, he took his goggles off, he took his gloves off, and he sat down on this rock facing the lake to have some lunch. And as he sat there enjoying his food, all he could hear in the distance were the sound of a few geese down on the lake making some noise, but other than that, it was totally quiet. After he was done eating, he put his gear back on and got back to work. About an hour later, at around 12:15 p.m., Stefan was still hacking away at the rock when, despite all the noise he was making as he smashed the ground with his pickaxe, he could hear a really loud commotion coming from behind him. And it turned out when he stopped the pickaxe, the commotion sounded like geese honking and going wild. And so he dropped his pickaxe, he took his goggles, put them up on his forehead, and then he stood up and he turned around and he looked down towards the lake where he heard all these geese going crazy. And the first thing he noticed was there were some geese on the lake that appeared to be flying off in different directions like they had been startled. But what really immediately caught his attention was not the geese, but what had very likely startled the geese. And that was two bright, glowing red objects that were flying slowly across the lake towards him, kind of roughly over where the geese were. And now these objects, they were cylindrical. They appeared to be about maybe 30 or 40 feet wide. They didn't have any sort of emission coming off of them. They weren't making any noise. They were just kind of slowly making their way over towards where Stefan was. Now, as Stefan is watching this happen, he wasn't fearful. He assumed those have to be military aircraft. As it was, this part of Canada, Falcon Lake, is very remote. There's not many people around. And so logically, it made sense that perhaps there's a military that's doing training exercises in this area. And so feeling much more intrigued than fearful, Stefan just continued to watch as these red aircraft got closer and closer to his side of the lake. And then when these two craft were about 200 feet away from where Stefan was standing, they came to a stop and they were just hovering in the air. And then one of the craft suddenly turned orange and began going up into the clouds, and then at some point just vanished. And then the other craft, instead of going up, just continued descending very slowly, now very clearly towards this open rock face that Stefan was standing on. Now again, Stefan was totally convinced that these were military aircraft, conducting some sort of exercise, and so he's not fearful. He is just intrigued by what he's seeing. And in fact, by this point, he had convinced himself that this second aircraft that was now coming down to land on these rocks must have experienced some sort of issue, and they were landing in order to fix it. And Stefan even thought to himself, well, hey, I'm a mechanic. Maybe I can help the pilot or pilots with whatever's going on with their craft. Once the craft finally did touch down on the rocks about 150 feet away from Stefan, it changed colors from red to stainless steel with an orange glow around the outside of the aircraft. And inside of this craft, a really bright purple light came on that Stefan was only aware of because there was a couple of small holes on the outside of this craft where this purple light was coming through. But these little rays of purple light coming out of this craft were so bright that it actually was hard for Stefan to look directly at the craft. And so his welding goggles were still on his forehead, so he pulled them down, put them over his eyes, and his welding goggles had a kind of tint to them, so it was like he was looking through sunglasses, and with those on, he was able to continue looking at the craft. And so through his goggles, Stefan is still just standing in the same spot where he first saw these craft, and he's watching this craft that's now landed 150 feet away from him, and he's fully expecting any minute for the pilot or pilots to come out of the craft and explain what's going on. But at first, nothing happens. And so Stefan is just standing there waiting for something to happen when he realizes he has his sketchbook in his pocket. Stefan liked to bring his sketchbook along on his prospecting trips because he liked to sketch things. And so he figured while he waited for the pilot or pilots to emerge, he would sketch the craft. And so for the next couple...
I knew he was going here.
I mean, hey.
You believe that?
I've seen one before.
Girl, that was
You wasn't out there. You don't know what it was.
Bro, we saw it. Yes, I was.
Not that time. I told you about it. And then you told me I was crazy.
You are. Very, very much so crazy. They probably call this man crazy as well.
Well, hey.
Do you believe...
And then what about that video you showed me when they was in the in a hotel or a club or something, and they had came out and it was like you believe that?
I ain't believe that.
Yeah,
I just said no. I don't. No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No,
You was like, that dude look like it, and I was like, yeah.
That's what he did. And then after he was done sketching it, he put his sketchbook away, and then really nothing happened for about another 30 minutes. He just stood there, and the craft remained motionless. But after about 30 minutes of the craft having landed, it opened. There was like a sliding door on the side of the craft facing Stefan, and it revealed the beautiful, bright purple interior of this craft. But from Stefan's perspective, because of how bright the lights were and how far away he was, he couldn't tell what was inside of the craft. But Stefan's thinking, okay, clearly now the pilot or pilots are coming outside. And so Stefan felt really relieved, and he was just standing there waiting to talk to whoever was inside. But, again, nothing happened. And so now, feeling just plain curious, Stefan decided, you know what, I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to yell into this open door to the pilot or pilots inside and make sure they're okay. And so he starts slowly making his way across the rock face towards this craft and this open door. And when he gets about 60 feet away from the craft, he suddenly stops because now he can hear from inside of this craft the sound of two voices talking to each other. He can't really tell what they're saying, but very clearly there is communication happening inside of this craft. And so Stefan assumed that must be the pilots, and so he called out to them in English. And the second Stefan yelled out to this craft, the voices immediately came to a stop, and they did not respond to Stefan. And so Stefan is calling out to them in English, hey, are you okay? What are you doing in there? And when English didn't work, Stefan called out in Russian. He called out in German, Italian, French, Ukrainian. And when all of those didn't work, he went back to English and just continued kind of calling out, trying to get them to please come out and talk to him. But he got no response and no one came out of the craft. And so at this point, Stefan thought, okay, I'm totally committed, so I need to keep going and make sure the pilot or pilots are okay. And so he continued walking closer and closer to this open door of the craft. And when he got...
Let me ask you this. Would you have got on the craft?
Hell no. I ain't getting... No.
Would you have walked up to the craft and started talking?
I would have been like, well, I guess it's time for me to go. No, I would not.
You want me to tell you, this is the reason why it's hard for me to believe a lot of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what to... My thing is, what makes... Because I saw this report not too long ago that most sighting of things like this mainly happens only in North America. Mm-hmm. It's certain people, sometimes it's spotted outside of America, of North America. North America, I mean the continent. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people spot it elsewhere, but it's very, very, very rare. Why is there so many spottings only happening in North America? Basically, it's all like what makes this area so special that we're the only people who supposedly are seeing any paranormal activity or any out of the norm things happening here on our continent, but no one else outside of North America is seeing it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
What makes them want to target us? Are we the chosen? I'm just...
And so he continued walking closer and closer to this open door of the craft, and when he got about 10 feet away, he was suddenly struck by the incredible craftsmanship of this craft. He couldn't see any rivets anywhere on this amazing piece of machinery, meaning this craft appeared like it had somehow been carved out of one enormous piece of steel, which seemed totally impossible. Also, Stefan noticed there were no insignia on the outside of this craft. There was no flag or anything kind of denoting who was flying it. There was really nothing on the outside of the craft. But Stefan just kept on going until he was standing right outside of this open door. He's only a couple feet away from it, and now he's looking directly inside, and he doesn't see the pilot or pilots. And in fact, because of how bright this purple light is coming out, even with his goggles, it's really hard to see what's inside of this craft. But he can clearly see inside there is some sort of panel in the back of the craft with lots of flashing lights, almost like a computer, and there were other kind of columns of light moving around inside the craft at different angles. But after looking in this craft for only a few seconds, the door suddenly slid shut. And then Stefan, without really thinking about it, reached out and touched the craft. And the second he did that, two things happened. One, the hand that he touched the craft with, he was wearing a big welding glove, and the second he made contact with that craft, the leather glove began to melt. Not even catch on fire, it just instantly began to melt. And so he began frantically ripping the glove off to get it off of him to avoid injury. And then the second thing that happened is the craft began rotating counterclockwise until this vent that was on the outside of the craft, one of the very few things that was on the outside of the craft that actually Stefan had noted in his sketch. He had drawn this grate that sat on the outside of the craft. This grate rotated around until it was aimed directly at Stefan. Now, to picture this great, picture like a vent you would see inside of a building where air conditioning blows air out of, right? It's kind of like that same size, the size of a license plate on a car. And instead of there being vertical slats along the vent, like you would see with an air conditioning vent cover, on this vent, on this craft, it was like a checkerboard pattern with little buttonholes all over this vent. And so Stefan is looking at this vent, and then suddenly something shoots through the vent, like an explosion that hits him square in the chest and lights him on fire. His shirt is literally in flames, and so Stefan is frantically trying to rip off his shirt. He throws it on the ground, he's stomping the flame, and as he's doing that, he looks up and sees this craft has somehow immediately shot into the sky and is now disappearing into the clouds. Now, Stefan had no idea what just happened. All he knew is his chest and his stomach now hurt tremendously. But before he could deal with that, he developed this unbelievable headache. He suddenly felt so nauseous, and he felt delirious, like he was drunk. Trying not to panic, Stefan, who now is shirtless and badly burned, he ran over and grabbed some of his things, and then he began heading back into the woods to make his way back towards the motel. It would take him several hours of stumbling through the forest, stopping periodically to vomit, but he would eventually reach the highway, he would cross over, and he would make his way into the motel right around 4 p.m. And when he got there, he made his way into the cafe, and he asked the staff if they knew where the nearest doctor was. These staff members would later tell investigators that when Stefan came tumbling into the cafe without his shirt on, looking totally horrible, they assumed he was drunk. But after talking to him, he didn't smell at all like alcohol. Instead, he reeked of this horrible sulfur smell. The staff would tell Stefan that the nearest doctor was 45 miles away. And so at this point, Stefan decided his best bet was actually to just get on a bus and go back to Winnipeg, where his family could take him to the nearest hospital. And so somehow, Stefan managed to make his way to the bus stop.
Bro, how you make it all the way there? Like, back to the hotel, and then all of a sudden you get, well, I guess you run off of adrenaline. But does the adrenaline last that long? 45 miles away? Like, but then you take 100 miles, take a bus 100 miles back to... No way. And you walk that time out the forest?
Yeah.
Can you really last that long off of... You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, but again, we don't really know what happened. So whatever it wasn't something that was like an immediate...
But could it have been fake?
We really won't know, but will we?
Speculating. Could it have been fake? Could all this have been staged?
So you think that he did some burning
Could have
to
burned
himself and...
That looked like an iron.
That does not look like... No, it does not. That is not the shape of that.
You never know what. There's plenty of irons made differently, girl.
Where was he gonna plug it up at?
It probably was one you can heat up or something.
Come on, let's keep going.
He hopped on a Greyhound bus, he went to Winnipeg, and then his oldest son, Mark, met him at the bus stop and practically carried him into the hospital. The very strange checkerboard burn pattern found on Stefan's abdomen, where he claims this craft turned its vent and fired on him, were determined not to be thermal burns, meaning he didn't get them from something hot touching his skin, like everyone initially suspected. Instead, they were determined to be chemical burns, but literally no one, doctors, scientists, government agencies, no one could figure out what chemical actually burned his skin. In fact, no one was ever able to actually identify what was causing all of these ailments that Stefan was complaining of, from the headache to the nausea to the weakness to these burns. And he was tested for basically everything, from radiation poisoning to very common ailments and illnesses, and everything came back negative. Experts would go out to Falcon Lake, to the area that Stefan described seeing this craft, and sure enough, they would find an open rock face, and right around the area that Stefan described was this circular burn pattern, as if something had been perched right there that shot some sort of exhaust into the ground, and the area around this landing site was determined to be highly radioactive, although it is assumed that the reason that area is radioactive is because there is a vein of radium that runs underneath the rocks near the area. However, what no one could explain away were the 3 identical pieces of what looked like metal, which actually turned out to be a very rare type of silver, that were located near this burn circle. Now, even though the Falcon Lake area was known apparently for having silver deposits up in the hillsides, this silver, these 3 pieces of silver, were not from the hillsides of Falcon Lake. This silver was heavily manufactured. Someone, something, some machine had manipulated the metal to bend and be cut in a very particular way. And all 3 of these pieces of very rare silver were highly radioactive. They would also find traces of this very rare type of silver that seemed to have seeped into some of the loose rocks that were inside of that burned out circle, almost like the silver had melted into the rock. But despite these pieces of evidence that do seem to suggest that Stefan really did see some craft land on these rocks, and despite the fact that the US government and the Canadian government both thoroughly investigated this case and they were not able to debunk it, they basically said, well, something happened, but we don't know what. Despite all of that, Stefan and his family's lives were forever upended after this incident. Stefan was ridiculed and accused of lying and of being crazy, and his kids were unfortunately bullied at school. Shortly,
My only thing is, has anything of this nature has ever has he shown signs of anything prior to this to possibly make up something like this? You know what I'm saying? Did he possibly?
But again, regardless if he did or not, what is it?
You got evidence there on the scene.
Yeah, that too. But I'm saying this, what is it? What am I thinking about? Like the attacks and stuff is not coming from his face, it's coming from outsiders. So anybody outside that really don't know you or know your character, they're going to, oh, he's crazy.
No, I ain't talking about that.
What you trying to say?
I'm saying to be able to determine if, have his family have seen that, hey, he possibly lies a lot, or he fabricates these different stories to possibly would throw you off, or I'm saying of that nature. I'm not talking about the outsiders who attacking them. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm saying has his family ever has done anything, possibly even with other prospectors he might have come across, has anything ever has been done or by him or said out of the norm. I'm not talking about the people that's attacking.
Right, I got what you were saying, but I'm saying obviously not. I'm pretty sure if that was the case, me personally, I'll come forward. I'm like, well, maybe before we make this a big deal, this is something. You travel
so far.
This is something that he normally, does. This is kind of like his, like if I was his wife or something, let's not make this a big deal,
But you travel so far. As soon as you land in your town, now you just drive wheat. You know what I'm saying? That's a distance, girl. That's hours.
But regardless of the fact if people believe him or not, the investigators, whoever,
we ain't done it yet.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying we ain't done.
I know. I'm just saying from the information that we know now, they found something. Something happened. Whatever it may be, who knows? Did he do something himself? We don't know.
He could have staged all that, baby.
That's what I'm saying. Did he do something himself to come up with this story? Like, we don't know, but something happened. Whatever. But.
And of being crazy, and his kids were unfortunately bullied at school. Shortly before Stefan died in 1999 at the age of 83, he was asked if he regretted coming forward with this story. And he would say, yes, I wish I never told anyone. But he would also say, at the time, he really felt like he had a duty to tell the world about what happened. Stefan never changed his story, and he never came out and said, I think this craft came from another world, another planet, another universe. He just said, look, I think it was an experimental aircraft. That's it. He also never made a dime on this experience. If anything, he lost money because he paid to write a 40-page pamphlet that explained what happened to him, and then he left all these copies on his porch. So if news people showed up or if nosy neighbors showed up and had questions, he would just point to the stack of the books and say, take one and read it.
Which is true.
So that's going to do it. If you got something out of today's episode and you...
That is true. If he never exploited the...
I think something probably happened. And you can call me crazy
And
or whatever the case may be.
He never said it technically. Aliens, I had encounter with aliens. He never hinted to any of that.
He just gave a description of what happened, what it looked like, or what he may have felt that it was, and y'all can take that and run with like whatever y'all want to.
And it felt as though he just kept questioning as far as what could it have been. And is it a possibility the U.S. and Canadian has investigated the situation, found something out, and just lied about it? Because in recent past, we did hear that they lied about all this stuff. They just kept it, everything. And what if they trying to tell us now because something is going to happen? Because why would you lie to us for so long, but now admit to it? Like, hey, we have been lying.
Well, that I don't know, and I don't want to speculate that because I don't know.
Everybody else can speculate. I got to speculate too.
Well, I'm just saying I don't know. So,
because my thing is,
that's a good question. I guess
y'all have lied for so many years. Has told people they're
kept
crazy.
So many secrets and stuff like that.
Have told people they're crazy. You didn't see what you think you saw, and now there are unidentifiable things in the air that we can't explain. Like, why now? That's what I'm saying. Like, why now? Have y'all...
Good question. It's a question for them.
Do y'all know something y'all ain't telling us?
Yeah.
I'm saying, come on now. Y'all kept secrets like that for so long, but now I want to tell and be open and honest with the people.
Yeah.
I don't really trust it.
I feel you.
You would have kept lying because y'all lied all these years.
It's a lot. Yeah, I feel you.
So I don't know what to trust. I don't know what to believe. Could they... But I say this, that doesn't look like an arm. I know I was joking earlier, and I said the iron thing, but he would have developed like weapons. I wonder when he passed, did he still have those markings? Were the markings still there like that?
Good question.
Did they web over? Like, how did they affect the body?
Yeah, how did it heal?
Yeah, how did it heal? Was there internal damage? Right. Like the stomach lining possibly.
Did he possibly throughout the years, did he
suffer
from like random headaches or random weakness or
any
vomiting
sickness,
or just anything,
cancer,
just anything. Most definitely, yeah. Since y'all said it was so radioactive, yeah. So I am wondering. But
that seemed like a laser shot, possibly. If it's an alien shooting aircraft, pew, and then I wonder what you get hit with, and why is the metal why is these metal particles left from the ship? That they fall off the ship.
That's what it sounds like.
But he said the ship was so well put together. Why would pieces of their metal be falling off?
Probably from the impact of the landing. Like, you don't know. Like,
I don't know what the fuck.
You don't know what to believe. We wasn't there, and all we have to go off of is a story. So,
and possibly when they landed, is this area they typically land often?
Possibly.
That's the reason why so much.
But then also, why would the other one? If he said he seen two, why did they leave and go up, and then y'all stayed?
Did they see him?
I don't know.
Did they see him? Because my thing, why come down if y'all wasn't gonna make any kind of, you know what I'm saying, connection? Why come down, or were y'all targeting him and thought y'all would kill him? Are y'all running tests to see how y'all weapons work on humans? I'm saying he's the lone person out there by himself. This aircraft comes floating down. All this time has went by. They ain't made contact yet. Soon as you try to approach to make contact, shoom, poof. Like, why y'all try to kill me, bro? I'm over here trying to get in contact with y'all. I hear y'all talking and shit. Can't understand it. And do aliens look like?
Okay, well, he never said that that's what it was. But
okay, it's not aliens. It's not aliens. Okay. I'm just playing. What I'm saying is, do you believe that we are the only people in whatever Not even just in space,
can't
in the
say.
universe,
I
in
can't
the
say.
galaxy, and beyond other galaxies. Do you? I'm
I
saying
can't say.
deep down. Yeah, you can.
No,
Everybody got an answer.
I can't. I really
Do
can't.
you believe that this Earth is the only place where life form is? Life form. Not saying human life form. I'm not saying any type of life form. Do you believe this Earth is the only place?
I don't know.
Out of all these planets, all these galaxies, all these
There's a possibility.
In all honesty, me personally,
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Because you've said it before.
I don't think so.
I mean, that's cool. Again, there's possibility like for it to be, not just us. Like,
and to be completely honest, do I believe aliens look like what we think they look like? Hell no. Nah. I believe, honestly, they can walk, talk, and look just like us. If it's true. I don't know what the fuck to believe in. I just don't know. But do I believe, like, if it is true, do I believe?
So you believe all of that, but you didn't believe the story.
I never said I didn't believe the story.
You did, because you was trying to debunk. I think you just had an iron out there and you just.
I always play devil's advocate. I always play devil's advocate.
But so do you believe the story? Do you believe that something actually happened?
I don't know. I'm just like you.
But you think that. Do you think something possibly happened? Do you think something?
I can't. In his situation, I don't know. Do I believe aliens have ever visited here? I don't know. I can't say. Because I don't know what the fuck to believe in anymore.
Well, regardless of the fact if it's true or not, it was a good story. I mean, and
let me say this.
For me personally,
it is a possibility something happened.
For me, I feel like something did happen because you wouldn't put that out there. But I'm saying, you knew the risk possibly that this could hurt me, my family, whatever the case may be, my kids. Why would I put them through that? You know what I'm saying?
Maybe he thought it was gonna work out a different type of way, and it just didn't.
Maybe so, but then he's stuck by his story. Some people, they would have at some point getting all of this, like people attacking, calling them crazy, kids being bullied and stuff. You'll go back on your word, go back on what you said. But that never.
Some people don't though.
Wavered. I mean, hey, but some people don't if they're getting something out of it. But he didn't get anything out of it. So what was the point? But teachers, I don't know.
Let me say this. I have to look more into it. Like I know Mr. Ballen goes in very detail. I just in this situation, I want
to get some more information.
I need more information, more heavy details. I need to do my own little research. I'll say that.
I'm just saying, crazy things happen. Like what is it like?
You thought you saw something.
I
told you it was a drone.
You didn't even see it. You assumed it was a drone because you.
Bro, we went outside. And you said, "There it go again."
And you said, "That's a drone." And I said, "That's not a drone."
That's them flying their drone.
Why I ain't seen it again?
Bro, it's been cold. The people could have moved.
No, I know.
People are moving all the time.
Then it was not cold. It was hot then.
I said it's been cold.
I'm saying I never seen it again after that night.
And people move all the time.
They didn't move.
He could have crashed.
The same people been staying over there. He could have.
No, it ain't.
You don't know.
Yes, I do, because a couple houses been available over there.
Around the way, not right there.
Right there, it's the same neighborhood.
Yeah,
it's the neighborhood.
Child, anyway.
It's like a couple houses. Come on now.
There's always something going on that is unexplainable. So, hey.
You thought, I see a UFO. I go outside, I say, you said, there you go right there. It look just like that thing. I said,
well, you go say anything is not what I say it is.
That thing was little, see.
It was not little. It was
little.
It was a
Come
big size.
on, bro.
I seen it.
Why would they want you?
I didn't say they wanted me. I just said they was over there hovering around. That's all I said.
See, if I was in one of the motherfuckers, I'm hovering around, see a motherfucker, I'm shooting. You know what I'm saying? If I'm in that bitch, I'm like, there go one of them one. What we call them unidentified species right there. Just.
No, but no, for real, y'all.
They're running.
Let me tell y'all, for real though, I didn't really see the object itself. I just seen like this light. And then I told you, was like, that's a drone. And I said, well, it may be a drone, but it was a drone. It was a little weird, okay? It was how he was flying it. But anyway, hey.
Hey man, Make sure y'all spam us up in the comments. Y'all let us know y'all thoughts and opinions, because I need help.
Okay, I ain't gonna keep going.
You said
Go
now
ahead.
what?
Nothing.
You said now.
Let's
I ain't gonna lie. The video I sent you, that one
I was
did
about
look
to
sus.
say that video you
That
sent me,
sus.
and I've seen some like other pictures.
But
and
that
stuff
look sus,
of-
right?
That did. That one was very
Sus.
yes.
On this level.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But again, who knows what this stuff be? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Who
you don't know. So,
Who knows,
I mean,
man?
can only speculate.
It could be another balloon flying. Who knows?
I mean, who knows? Honestly, for real though.
But hey,
anyway.
man, make sure y'all spell us up. Let us know y'all thoughts to the piece. But as always, I do go with the name of Jenny here. This is
Sierra Nicole.
We are.
Kid and C.
We are, y'all.
Go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar, 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 dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar, 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 dollar.